me see. Hello, if you're watching this, it's just because I'm waiting YouTube to confirm. And usually you can see me before I know that the YouTube is working. Just a second. Yeah, so I got a confirmation. So good morning again. And I'm here again with Amanda. You can see her next to me somewhere. It's funny because like on Zoom for me, it shows in one side, and then on YouTube, it kind of changed sides. So yeah, like on YouTube, it's on this side. I think it's funny. Anyway, it's fun to play with the technology. I was this morning, I was just before I even jumped in with Amanda was looking, it's our episode, and I was putting 007. It's our 007 episode. So good, it's fun.
License to thrill.
Yeah. Or like, I don't know, secret agents.
Yeah,
And
I love that.
let's do so. It's our episode number 7. And as we were saying, like last week, and even just before we jumped in, we're enjoying this so much, and it feels so light. And we have triggers as well. And like we spoke last week on Friday on the episode number 6, Amanda beautifully shared, what came up for her. And like, like it's again, we spoke about triggers, and sometimes someone says like how brave you are, and it can trigger something. And then it's not even that the person intend to trigger something negative, but it's just, yeah, it's how it's developed. And during the weekend, Amanda was sharing for today, with the intention for this call, and we shared how we healed, and how we went into that trigger, how we can release it, and how can we make it lighter, and so on. And sometimes there will be some residuals, there will be some like little nuggets, and like even if you healed from your side, there will be something else that it's maybe connected with the collective, or maybe a history that came even from your parents, and so on. So I found this, it will be an awesome, topic to jump in. And yeah, so good morning, Amanda. And yeah,
Thank you,
I'll
Jane.
pass
Good
it
morning,
on to you.
Julia. And thank you to everyone that's listening live or on the recording. It's so beautiful to have you here with us. And this energy is very present for you no matter when you're listening to this. And again, I know I say this all the time, but I love how you really encapsulate my ramblings this morning when we started talking.
Awesome.
I love how you do that. But the reason we wanted to share this as well was to say that sometimes we can have a huge clearing and a huge release, and we feel the liberation, the freedom, return to wholeness and love, and we can really feel that something deep has really shifted. And that was definitely the case for me with the healing I shared on Friday. And then over the weekend, I just noticed there was just tiny little nugget just in my chest. So sometimes we can have a residual energy where all we need to do is just hold that. That energy just needs holding, and it just gets returned to source energy, or the life force, goodness, divinity. I'm happy to use the word God, but I'm conscious some people might not like to use the word God because of associations that we have with God and religion. Um, but also just a returning to light and love and intelligence and wisdom. And that's where a lot of that energy got returned to. And there was a real freedom in me, and just that feeling of wholeness again. And the real inspiration for why Junior and I are doing this, to help people to remember who they really are, not who they're supposed to be, who they really are underneath these limitations, false beliefs, fears, insecurities, blocks, triggers. So just over the weekend, there was just this little nugget in the same area. So I knew what to do. So I had a lovely weekend, lots of lovely things that we did. But as soon as I had the chance, I just took myself off and did the things that we do. I mean, I'm always very conscious of my breathing, and I'm very, very aware of the space I'm inhabiting. But I knew I just had to really tune in, really anchor. So for me, I anchor in with Mother Earth as well. I anchor in with light. But I set my intention of whatever this little nugget is, there's a part of me that's really wanting to talk to me. And it uses pain to let us know, because whatever this little thing is, my body's reacting to it. And I could tell it was quite an old energy. So doing what we do, I didn't use my breathing, went into my body awareness, really opened up my body. I knew I'd gone into the parasympathetic nervous system. My body felt calm and open. My mind felt calm and open as well. I could feel a beautiful space around this little nugget. So as I just really held that nugget, I said the words that helped me. It's okay. You're safe. You're safe to feel this now. Whatever this is, it's obviously time because I'm here with you. It's time now. Nothing's gone wrong. Everything's okay. This is happening for a really good reason. The universe adores me and supports me. There's an abundance there for me. Anything that happens is always for my good. So these are the words that seem to reassure my energy system. And as I went into it, again, I was quite surprised at the level of frustration that was in there. And I thought, gosh, I hadn't really realized that. And I just held that frustration, and all my defenses came in, the things we talked about, because it felt it was sort of keeping me safe a little bit. It didn't want me to look at it. It was part of me that didn't want me to look at it. And then what came up was this deeper frustration of, but why aren't I free of this? There was a part of me that was frustrated with me. So I had to sort of talk to that part of me that was frustrated with me, because it was sort of saying, but you did this big healing. Why have you still got a little nugget there? Why is this discomfort still there? So I could just hold that frustration, say to that frustration, I know you're here to tell me something. I know you're here to share some wisdom, some insight, some healing, and some clearing. And I could feel this frustration. And I'm not going to lie, it was seconds in time, but it was quite uncomfortable to hold. And that's when I suppose the courage comes in, when you say, I'm just going to hold this. I don't need to run away from this. I can hold this. And as I held that energy in that beautiful space that enveloped around it, it didn't consume me. So as I held that energy, it started to beautifully dissolve. So I could say, this energy, I'm going to ask that it's returned to source, return to light. It's healed and cleansed completely now. And as I said that, I could feel, for me, that I do connect in my imagination, in my open mind, with the light and the energies around me. And I could feel this energy being beautifully just drawn and taken back into the light, and also just beautifully being reintegrated back into my energy system to give me life force energy as well. But then as I did that, there was a feeling of, it was one, two, it's hard to put this into words, so I'm going to really try and do my best. There was 1, 2 specific family members who have passed on, but then in the end there was like hundreds or thousands of souls, people there that I didn't feel I knew in this lifetime, but there was a familiarity with them. And what came up was, the last little bit that didn't happen on Friday was the pardoning and forgiving for all those that were involved in the creation and the continuation and the living out of the patterns, the limitations, the false beliefs, the traumas that I was healing on the Friday. And as I did that, as I allowed those energies in and asked for their pardoning and forgiving, it wasn't that I was saying, hey, it's okay that a huge abuse was suffered. It wasn't that. We were just saying we can understand that everyone's doing their best. And we all know, we've all woken up out of patterns, limitations, and in that new level of consciousness, we've looked back and said, how could I have done that? That was insane, or that was cruel, or that was mean. And we can only live from the level of awareness that we have, the level of consciousness of the light and love and wholeness that we truly are. And Junior and I are going to talk about personality disorders and narcissism, and why people live from fear and insecurity, and the spectrum of that, and when people become manipulative. But there was a certain energy that came through, and who I'd suffered huge abuse with in this lifetime. But as that energy came forward and I asked for the pardoning and forgiving of all those involved in the creation, I mean, it always makes me cry now. The release, the understanding that came forward, the love, the compassion, that it set me free. So I've heard a wonderful saying that we think that, to make somebody else suffer for the things they've done to us, I'll keep swallowing poison. So if I poison myself, it will poison them, but it doesn't work. So the healing is always within us. But then I could feel the deepening of the understanding of this other specific person. I could see the depths of what I'd suffered at their hands had been the deeper calling to wake me up to who I am in this lifetime and do this healing and clearing that I am so passionate about. So there was huge gratitude to this person. And there was a coming together again. I could connect with them again. The pain was dissolving, the understanding was there. And then it was sort of, it's like a trickle, but then just thousands came in. And I knew it was my ancestral lineage, my family line. There were many timelines being healed within the timeline, now within Mother Earth. And it was very quick. So in terms of time, this is probably seconds worth. But there was a lot happening within that. And I just know I was holding the space for that. And then I was checking in with this feeling in my heart, and it was dissolving beautifully, and I was holding it, and then it just opened up even more. And then the deeper purpose came through, the deeper understanding of who I really am, as well as being Amanda, the mum, the friend, the family member, the auntie, the guide, the therapist, the friend, the deeper understanding of my soul and who I am and my purpose. And that's a whole nother conversation, because for me, it is about understanding our souls and our vibration. And then we do have, for me, it's very important that as my intuition, my frontal lobe was fully open, my imagination, I do have a place I go to where lots of energies come in and I feel very safe there. I communicate with them. And the reason I want to share this, that you don't have to think you have to be deeply spiritual or deeply psychic. Everyone can do this. It's just bringing in energies that you feel safe with. There's an understanding with them. And this is where we can receive insights, wisdom, understandings. And as I was doing that, I kept checking in with my body. How is this feeling? And it just kept feeling open and safe and wise and inspired and liberating. I could feel there was a heightening, a lightening within as I was doing it. And afterwards, just did the open-eyed meditation. I was very conscious throughout the rest of my day, even more so. But I could really feel this. There was sort of like an inner strength had really come back in. I knew there was a childlikeness that had been matured within me, and there was just a strength and even stronger conviction of it is about us all healing and clearing, and then being joyful in who we are. We are here to experience the sadness, the elevation. We are here to experience being human and who we are, but not getting lost in that, not believing that's all we are. We can experience sadness without being consumed by loss and grief and abandonment. So I do work with people that have experienced grief and loss. And the thing you help them to understand is sadness is very much a normal part of being human. We acknowledge it's something that mattered to us when we care about, has physically gone from our experience. But when we can go deeper into that, on a deeper level, there is no loss. We are always connected to everything. But there is, in the physical world, there is a coming and going. There is a coming and going. There is. And sadness is acknowledging that. But when we do it from a place of wholeness and love and unity, that sadness comes and goes in waves. It doesn't have to consume us. We can heal patterns of abandonment. Why has this happened to me? Victimness. There can be a lot that can be involved. So for me, when there's a deep loss, there's an opportunity for huge healing to occur in that loss. And I wouldn't be cruel enough to suggest that straight away when someone's had a very heartfelt loss. But for me, there's almost a feeling of, wow, there's an opportunity here for a real deep healing.
Amanda, like, no, it was just I put on mute, like, to Charlie was snoring in the background. Uh, like,
Oh,
I don't want to distract too much, like, from people. I see. I like leaving you, what I mean, to share your um, all the experience that you shared first before I comment anything, because I feel people can connect with the energy, like with the feeling, like we mentioned in some of the episodes as well. But I did feel a bit emotional as well. I could feel the healing, and as we said, in even like off in what I mean, off camera or off being live here, sometimes we say this project that we're doing here every morning is not only healing and potentially helping people out there, but it's healing us as well.
yeah.
And I feel like with your story, it did connect with me, and I know it will connect with some people as well that were listening to the story as well. And it will, by you, I mean, and I'm not talking to you that are watching this as well, but you allowing to listen to Amanda's story, to connect with everything that she went through, and allow herself to go through, and to visualize and to connect with the energy and everything. You are healing that in yourself as well, like consciously, subconsciously, however you feeling that. I just want to reinforce that, because I could feel the healing coming through. And like we said, like off camera a few times, like off being live, we can feel the healing on these conversations every morning in there. And I want to, again, to give a little contrast with few things that Amanda spoke here, and I want to give some clarity, potentially bringing different perspectives as well, for a few words and few things that we used here.
Mhm.
One is, we mentioned this few times, and sometimes we forget, what I mean, that people don't understand, like, because we say who we really are, and then people might ask, like, but what do you mean by that? I know that there are some people here that will understand, that will get this idea.
Yeah.
But I love, this concept of who am I, and I asked this question for years as well. Who am I in terms of, and then some answers comes like, oh, I'm a business coach, or I'm a son, or I'm a daughter, I'm a, do you see what I mean? I'm the uncle, I'm the, like Amanda was saying, the healer,
Mhm.
the guide, or maybe the daughter, and so on. We have so many identities and so many labels, but none of them are really who we are in total. It's part of who we are, or it's like a play of who we are,
Mhm.
but they're not who we truly are. And I'm not even going to, the spiritual stuff or anything else, but just be asking yourself,
Yeah.
am I, the coach? Because I used to be a manager. Do you see what I mean? A general manager in a restaurant. So because I'm not a general manager, so I'm not myself anymore. Or I used to be a kid. And I love, there is an old, video from Dr. Wayne Dyer,
Mhm.
where he was on stage, and then he shows some pictures of himself, like as a baby, and I
Yeah.
think he was 60 or 70s, and then as a teenager, and then he was asking, but who am I? Am I that baby? Am I that child? Am I that teenager? Am I the father? Am I? Do you see? There's so many different identities. They are part of us, but they're not us as a total. And
Yeah.
the same way, like we speak so many times on this, these mornings, and I want you guys to start feeling to it as well, that sometimes we have a thought, like Amanda brought up, there is some frustration. Why am I still here? Why am I still feeling this? And the frustration, the emotion, and we are not the frustration itself. We're experiencing the frustration. We're not the thought itself. We're experiencing the thought. And regardless of how it works in terms of the spiritual side or the scientific side, deep down that you are not the thought that say, I'm not good enough. Or you're not also the thought that says, like, I am good enough. You are yourself. You're like kind of a neutral, balanced, being, light, however you're going to call it, that is experiencing not being good enough, experiencing being in love, experiencing sadness, experiencing all this stuff. So
Yeah.
just want to kind of solidify and give a little bit more clarity that when we say, ah, who do we really are, who you really are, you can start kind of having an idea that it's not anything that we think, that we concept as
Yeah.
the body that we own, because our body is changing every single moment. You can tell, my white hairs were not there when I was a kid. Just, that's, we're changing. And even if our body, we identify with our body sometimes and we're frustrated with it and everything,
Mhm.
we know that that shall pass as well. And the other connection that it came from what Amanda said as well is like, for example, when we lose someone, on there's a loss, even if you don't go to the spiritual world, and this is what I like to connect with one of the past episodes as well, because we don't understand something, what we understand, we label it as a science. Because we don't understand, we label it as a spiritual in that way. But even when we lose someone, we know that that someone is not just that body, is not just the way that they think. There's something underneath that as well. And even if you go into science, for example, and if you break down, cells and then atoms, and then from atoms into neutrons and electrons and particles and everything else, you're going to find out scientifically that there is nothing there. There's no physical in there, in that sense. So when we say, when we go from a physical perspective to a non-physical, which is from life to death, let's say,
Mhm.
there is nothing there anyway to begin with. In that way, there is something in there that is us, and that we might not be able to explain. And religion, spirituality, and might label it as God, source, universe, energy, and in science we call it energy in that sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if, yeah, does it resonate with you, Amanda?
Yeah, no, I love, I think it's beautiful, isn't it? I love how you share how your perspective and how it feels, and I think it's beautiful as well. And it's everything, isn't it? I was saying as well, and saying in a slightly different perspective, which is why we're all here. We're all uniquely have a different frequency and vibration, and totally agree with you in that way, that when we realize, when we deepen our connection, when we go deeper within our bodies and sort of come out of that addictive or consuming mind, and we're not making the mind wrong, we start to feel this. There's a sort of presence within me. There's a space within me that is deeper than any of my ideas, thoughts, perceptions, physicality. And as you were so beautifully saying, what we're talking about here, we want a unifying of that, our soul, our presence, um, I would say our eternal self, with our humanity. So it's about understanding that the insecurities and limitations and false beliefs that we sometimes forget, that we're not just those. It's in the healing and clearing those, that when we remember who we are wholeness, we are loved, we are precious, we are infinite value, we are safe, we are here for beautiful reasons. We don't have to earn anything to feel that love. Our emotions are guiding us. So even if we said, I did something and I felt guilty, well, that guilty is there to tell us that um, if I kick that dog, as a consciously aware person, that's going to hurt. And a part of me wants to say, that isn't an act from your highest self. So that guilt isn't trying to shame me and say, you are a shameful, bad person. And what can happen is, through ancestral lineage, through experiences, society, we were learned to be controlled through fear and shaming. So that guilt is just saying that act wasn't your highest self. So if I can go into that guilt, that part of me can say, hey, honey, why did you feel you needed to kick that dog? What was that about? Let's explore that, because actually it hurt that dog and it hurt you. So, but if we're carrying an identity of shame, I am bad, not the thing I did wasn't my highest self. But when we're given an identity of I am bad, I am shame, I am wrong, when we don't know that we're living from that belief, we act from it. So we become victims or we become persecutors. And we'll talk about how that can play out, but it makes us manipulative on some level. And so for a lot of us, we are healing shame because for thousands of years, certain parts of humanity has governed the masses through fear and shame. So it's in the wonderful releasing of what you were saying as well. We realize, oh, so I'm not shame. No, you're not. Your goodness, your value, your worthiness. And that's when the deep healing comes through, where people can then forgive themselves because they say, well, like, I was only acting from the level of awareness that I have. And sometimes people don't want to reconnect with the pain because it's too much, it's too strong, they've shut down, it's too traumatic. So it's too painful for them. They have so forgotten the light that they really are. But what we're saying is, when we remember that, the energy we bring into that world, it is healing, it is light, and we don't get so triggered by the world. We become a whole energy. And then if there's any manipulative energy around us, we're not a match anymore. That manipulation can't survive because, as Junior was saying on our episode last time, we don't give our power away for that energy to feed from us. So we're saying here today, remembering who we really are, is that presence, is that love, is that wholeness, but there's a unique frequency to that. We're all meant to be a little bit different. And then we can be the mother, we can be the friend, we can be the healer, we can be the person chatting to somebody on the dog walk, but there's just a wholeness and a security within us. There aren't any triggers going off. There's no reactions to that other person because we're just whole. So we can be those things, but there's a purity and a wholeness and an integrity, an authenticity, a transparency to them. There's no need within any of them other than a desire to be a loving light that shines through those roles that we play as that person, as Junior, as Amanda. And as you were saying about your bodies as well, I think our cells completely regenerate every 7 years. So actually, you are a completely different physicality to who you were 7.5 years ago. So, but we realize we're the energy that's manifesting our bodies. And I have been with two very close family members when they passed away. And I held them as they passed and taught them through it. I'm not going to say it was an easy thing, but I did. And I felt everything Junior was saying. I felt the energy of who they were, left their bodies, went into my heart, but I know it also then became part of everything again. And that's difficult for me to really put into words what that experience was like. But then, as I then later touched their body that had died, it was like touching plasticine. And the grief and the sadness was there in the mix, but it was like touching their plasticine. It wasn't who that person was.
Thank you for sharing that, Amanda. I mean, I didn't have that experience myself, but I feel anyone that is listening to this, there is a knowing inside of you that person is not there anymore. And even when you watch a film, or and everything, and I remember this quite clearly when my dad shared about my grandfather, his dad, when he passed away and everything.
Yeah.
And he was saying, yeah, I knew that he was not there anymore.
Yeah.
It's almost like that, yeah, it's just an avatar of us, almost. Like, do you see what I mean? It's just, as
Yeah.
you said, it's like an object that we used in this life and everything else, and then we know when we go, from there to, integrate, and however we imagine this, to be. And yeah, but I think it's quite clear, regardless of what we believe on and who we if we believe in religion or not, that it's life, it's not there anymore. In that sense, that person that we knew to be there, it's not. And it's transcendent to a world that, some of us, have contact and can see and, hear things and everything else. And I believe that, I speak to one of my friends as well, and she talks about different dimensions and everything, and that's all good. But then if someone doesn't understand that, at least that that person is not there anymore, and even a little animal as well. And I had situations where I had loads of pets, and I'll share some of the stories maybe in future episodes. I mean, some of them quite dramatic, and and as you said, there is the grief, the loss and everything. But you can see on that little animal that you loved and everything else that it's not there anymore. Do you see what I mean? And when you
Yeah.
let it, yeah.
And then I think it's experiential as well, isn't it? Because then underneath the grief or the trauma or the loss or the whatever comes up from that loss of I've lost my source of love, all sorts of things come up. There's a whole cycle of grief. But when we can then just go deeper and feel your dog or the person that we love that's passed, they're there in our hearts. They still exist. And that's experiential. They're there still. That you feel them, you feel the energy of them in your heart.
Yeah.
So we even take away any religious or beliefs or spirituality, the experience of going beneath the pain and the loss and the trauma, you feel them. They're in your heart.
Yeah. And I just want to bring that up as well. Like, we connected quite well with the last episode where we spoke about this. There are different words for this, this council of people that you can bring on. That it can be, people that passed away, people that you never met. It can be people that actually living in this moment and everything, but they might not be physically with you, and you can bring to that imaginary, or however we're going to call it, council in there.
Yeah,
And you can have those conversations. And I know, regardless of what we believe on, that you can feel it. And I, even before, talking about spirituality, and I can feel, my grandmother, who had a a really close connection, my grandparents that passed away, or even an animal that passed away, that was close to you and everything.
yeah,
And even people that are actually alive and then they are not here, and you can have a conversation in your mind with them, and that release so much energy. And I
yeah,
just want to bring, I know that we're coming to nearly the 30 minutes and so on, but it's like, even when I had a situation with like, let's say, the image of my dad, which is still alive and everything else, and I couldn't do the let's say, to give a call, because I know that he was busy and everything else. I could bring, the identity, that the dad that I know in my mind, have that conversation in my mind, and
yeah,
that helped me to feel, better, to connect with my dad. And there was a situation, I think I shared with you in one of our, calls a long time ago, years ago, where I
yeah,
had a misunderstanding with my sister. We wouldn't speak for about 6 months, but I could connect with her heart, and I could connect with the image of my sister, who is
yeah,
still alive, is still here. But because of the misunderstanding, we wouldn't talk to each other, and so on. But I could, forgive. I could give forgiveness. I could give love. I could bring light, all into my heart,
yeah.
which is the person that it's someone that I love, and it's connected. And I know, even if she was not here, she would be able to feel it and to connect with it in some shape or form in that way.
I love that, Jude. Thank you for sharing that. That's so beautiful because we're saying that even if there's sort of ideas and beliefs that mean on that very surface level there's a misunderstanding, when we remember to go deeper, feel that person's heart, feel the soul, feel the light of who they are, um, and then there's no judgment there, right? There isn't a right or wrong, is there? There's just a, then it becomes a choice. And maybe for your sister, there's beliefs and ideas that you're saying, I don't need to change, she's who she is. But I can still feel that underneath that misunderstanding there is a deep love, and I will send her love, I will send her well-being. So I know it's panned out that you two have reconnected, and there's a beautiful reconnection gone on. And that's obviously what we always aspire to. But sometimes there are relationships where sometimes there is a parting of ways, and that might be for the rest of this lifetime. We're not saying it has to be. It could sometimes be that maybe that person, on a conscious level, they're at a place that we can't connect with. There isn't the same values, there isn't the authenticity, there isn't the safety, there isn't the love, there might be acting from a very different place. And as we were saying the other day, if ever there's a toxic relationship, something that feels abusive, whether it's physically, emotionally, sexually, or even on a soul level, our soul, our hearts would tell us it's time to have some space. And that's what you and your sister beautifully did. You knew that if you kept there, those reactions would just keep butting heads. And if you're doing that, you can't then go within and heal it. So by having that beautiful space and you doing that amazing work within, I absolutely know that that was a wonderful part of your reconnection and coming together again, because you accepted your sister for where she was.
Yeah.
You used discernment. You healed what was within you that was maybe part of the friction. And that created beautiful opportunity and space and energy for a deeper healing. So when you came back together again, there was an authenticity, a love, an acceptance of who that person was, but a deeper discernment and wisdom of, when I'm with this person, how does it feel? I would love to have a beautiful, physical, real relationship with that person. But when
And
we use that love and discernment, we can see how that feels. So that's wonderful.
awesome. Thank you, Amanda. And I want to, there's so much more that I want to talk, but I want to keep it for, it will come up. There is an idea about, people that we probably not going to connect in this life, anymore, or that we feel that there is a disconnection and so on. And there are some beautiful stories that I want to share with you guys, possibly on the next episode or the future episodes as well. But yeah, I want to say, I don't know if you want to say any, final words before we wrap up everything, Amanda. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Julia. But I think I'm just really loving this space that we're creating, and just inviting people to know that anything they're feeling or healing, it's an invitation to heal. And life really does love and support and want the very best for all of us. So if you're in a situation now that feels scary, or you don't know what to do, or you feel very lost, or there's been a huge loss and grief in your life, know that it hasn't happened to punish you. You didn't do anything wrong. There's a depth that's wanting to come through this, and it is a process and a journey. We can't leap straight to that. So if anyone is in pain that's listening to this, we're holding this space for you to know that you're held and you are loved and you are supported, and we're here in this space with
Thank
you.
you, Amanda. And yeah, so I think Amanda summarized that beautifully. And I know this episode in specific, it may connect quite deeply because we talk about, life, death, what I mean, loss, grief, but most importantly of who we are as well. And I feel people can get a feeling of where we're going into this. I mean, we didn't know where we're going, what I mean, into the episodes. There will be, a little bit more kind of deeper episodes like this one. There will be lighter ones, there will be more laugh and everything else. But yeah, I just want you to really know that you are in the right place. And I feel one of the quotes that I'm probably going to repeat over and over again, that I've heard that several times: the obstacle is the way. We may not feel, we may feel hard and as it goes through,
Mhm.
but I can guarantee to you there's light in it and there's transformation. And as Amanda beautifully put it before, there is a gift in it that we might not be able to see because we're going through all the, the sadness, the grief, the loss, and everything that we get to go through. And I feel one theme that is going through almost all episodes, like pain brings awareness again. Do you see what I mean? And the awareness bring us back to who we really are in
Yeah.
that sense. So again, yeah.
I just briefly say as well, and I think you said something that's very right as well, that we realise that in our healing journey, it isn't about continuously, I've got to continuously heal and feel pain. Within our journeys, within our healing, we can bring a lot of joy in. I think we're sharing about things we like to do that bring us joy. So within our healing, we also have moments of real joy and happiness, intense pleasure in the simplest things. So I love the fact you brought that in, that it's not just all about, oh God, I'm continually healing. It isn't. It's the contrary. Have very huge moments of joy and happiness and love. And that's what we're bringing through in the healings. Yeah.
So thank you again, guys and girls, Tamim, for being here. Thank you for watching us, wherever you're watching it, if it's live, if it's recorded. And as always, if it feels good to connect, please, hit the subscribe button. We are on YouTube as well. There's a link if you want to connect even deeper with us as well. And I'll see you guys on the next episode, which is probably tomorrow.
Thank you. Lots of love. Bye-bye.